Hey, this is Christian Buckley and another MVP Buzz Chat recording, and I'm here with Asif. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, Christian. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for those that don't know you, know your background, why don't you give us a snapshot of who you are, where you are?
Snapshots are hard, but I'll try. So my name is Asif Rehmani. I am in Chicago. Finally, it's getting much, much better out there in Chicago, so thankful for that. We're getting out of the deep freeze.
It's now just a light freeze, correct?
From light to deep. Deep to light, and then of course get super hot, and then we go back to deep freeze again. That's Chicago for you.
Excellent.
Yeah. I've known you, Christian, for a very long time, so you know, kind of my history. So I like you said, a snapshot. I'll try to keep it brief. I've been in the industry since 2002 for SharePoint / Office 365 now since it came out. The company that I run is called VisualSP. In addition to the MVP that I do, the company takes most of my time. Everything that I do revolves around how do you help users, mostly end users and power users, get what they want to get done within SharePoint without having to go too deep into code. That's what I've been focusing on for a very, very long time. And the role that I see playing in that is being more of a mentor, a trainer, a guide, so to say, to help them along from that. Especially in this day and age right now where things are just so complicated, everybody's trying to figure out, are we doing the right thing? Are we going the right way? Should it be hybrid? Should it be on-prem? Should it be online? Should it be nothing? There's just so much confusion.
There's been a huge shift. I mean, as you know, you and I've talked about this over the last few years where so many more of the topics, certainly the other MVPs that are speaking at SharePoint Saturday events and SharePoint conference, but other conferences that are across a broader range of technologies, but around end user adoption and engagement and kind of the business topics around the technology. And where did you start? Have you always been on those topics? I mean,
Nope.
Getting involved in 2002, kind of what was your experience and what have you seen in that shift?
Yeah, I definitely was not in the user adoption and governance until about 5 to 6 years ago. Before that, I was very much into super non-code or low-code solutions building. And before that, it was very, very hardcore developer solutions. And even before that, I used to do development and administration, teaching on it, classes, 4 or 5 day classes and all. And quite honestly, that I feel was easier than it is right now. People would think, how is that possible? That's much more complex things to do, obviously, in programmatic ways. But with end users, you really have to use part tactics, but part psychology. You really have to understand.
It's the soft skill side of the problem solving, which can be just a veritable cornucopia of nuanced issues and differences.
That's so true. That's so true. You have to really truly understand what's in it for them, and then truly provide that. You can't be pushing a message, thinking that this is what you should be doing because it's the right thing to do, or this is how it should be done. That just doesn't work in the real world.
But Asif, tell me exactly which features that I should be using, right? That's I think it's quieted down over the last year or so, but the last few years it's been this whole which tool to use when, and why isn't Microsoft being very prescriptive about which tool do I use when, and when's the right time to use SharePoint versus Teams versus Yammer versus OneDrive versus.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I'm going to share a personal story that hopefully makes things clear. So my dad, who had never been into technology, never. I've tried. When smartphones came out, like, Dad, you really need to see this. You really need to do this and that. And I have my phone. I have text. What else do I need, Asif? I mean, why do I need the smartphone? This was until about 5 or 6 years ago when he really got into it. And I want to tell you the story of what happened. So we have a very big family, especially the extended family. He's the oldest of 11 brothers and sisters, believe it or not. There was
I'm the second oldest of 10, so
oh, okay, then I didn't know that.
my wife is the oldest of 8, so yeah,
Big family.
I don't know how many nieces and nephews I have. I honestly don't. So.
That's the thing, and then because of his age right now, his brothers and sisters have had kids. They've had kids, and so anyway, the family got extended. It got spread across all continents in the world, right? How do you keep in touch with everybody? Well, there was no way to keep in touch. Now, one of my cousins actually went ahead 6-7 years back and made a WhatsApp group, right? Simple WhatsApp group, just dumped everybody in it. So then everybody started collaborating. Everybody just started talking to each other, about what's going on. And guess what? My dad was the only one who did not have a smartphone with WhatsApp, right? So he felt left out. So every time somebody would be talking about, oh yeah, we already talked about this, of course he's thinking, where did you talk about it? So to cut the story short, that was a turning point. He wanted WhatsApp. He got a smartphone for that. And from there, he started using other applications also. So, to answer what you were saying before, what to use when and what to use for what purpose, doesn't really matter. What do you want to accomplish? What is it in it for you? You got to start with that question. And it could be that you're using Outlook conversations and, maybe Yammer and Teams, neither of them work with what you want. That's fine. It is what it is, what you want out of it. And then that's where it goes. From there, you'll mushroom out to other things that will make sense to you.
Well, so, I just was thinking that there must be a if this then that, connector and integration from WhatsApp into email. And, could have gotten around that without him having to pay the additional fees of the smartphone. I'm just saying, as a good son, you would have thought, how could I save my dad some money by not forcing it?
I saw this as an opportunity, honestly. So right now he uses so many more apps, but that was only because he got into the platform to begin with, right?
Sure. Yep.
And that's why I tell people right now where their users are afraid of getting on Office 365 or just SharePoint on premises if they're on premises, start with one business case. When I go to conferences, for example, I ask people, well, what is that one business case? Think about it right now. You're here, you're going to go home, you're going to file an expense report, right? Is there anybody in your company that's not filing an expense report for something that they're doing? No, everybody's doing something of it. How is that process right now? Can you make it simpler? Can you make it 9 times simpler at least with something in SharePoint or Office 365? If yes, go ahead and do it. Do it cheap and dirty and just get it done. Show them why it's important. And that's it. That's all you need. You don't need a miracle. You don't need lots of different technologies working together to make this happen. Just one use case is all it takes.
Yeah, it's some of the most interesting stories. I mean, as you're aware, so I do these webinars with Thomas Duff to Watama around productivity. It's because I love the stories around the practical application of the technology and the creative ways that people are discovering features. And this happens all the time. And when we're talking about Office 365 and the Microsoft Office, productivity, the desktop solutions, Word, PowerPoint, things like that, is there's nobody that knows all of the rich features that these tools can do. And much less there's every week there's new things popping up. And so I'm constantly going in, playing with and finding things and sharing what I learn. And I have just this collection. I'm tagging and saving off links to websites for these other things that I see, whether it's coming from Microsoft or from people within the community, or people ask questions and be like, that's a great question. I don't know how you solve that, and I'll go and rummage around, try and find a solution myself. And it's a great way to I didn't know I was looking for a solution. I had a way of doing something, and I see this, and they're like, wow, that could save me, a bunch of time, or I was using some other solution, and hey, this is a way that I can use, the other capabilities, richer features in the products that I'm already using on a regular basis.
Absolutely. That's the way to go. It's not worth looking for problems. I mean, problems exist, challenges exist. You just have to discover the right thing for the right. You have to discover what you have on hand, what challenges exist, and then just put them together and keep it as simple as possible.
That just made me think. You just made me think of too. Is that one of the I think mistakes made in like piloting any technology is to build that pilot around a generic scenario that doesn't have actual business value. Like where you need to go and pilot, whether you're trialing new software that is just personal productivity software, or you're looking at a complex business system for your organization, you need to test it out on real scenarios, real problems.
You have to. Otherwise, it's just a cool thing that has no real application in your real life.
Yeah, and you're never going to adopt. Right. It's never going to stick. Right.
Yeah. Adoption is, once again, it's like I told you about my dad. You can't really force adoption. It has to come from the individual or the team. And it's only going to come when the pain exists somewhere. You just have to discover that, match it up with the right solution, and that's it.
In a lot of ways, it's like learning a language. I mean, if you're not using it, if it's not part of your life, you're not solving a problem that's real to you. It's like it's going to be hard for you to remember that capability.
Absolutely. So another, speaking of business in VisualSP, what we're trying to do also is we see this challenge that exists everywhere. And I mean, literally in every single company, where there's this one person in your team that you always go to for help. It could be the SharePoint guy, the Office 365 guy, or the Excel guy, or whatever, guy or gal. And you're always trying to say, hey, can you just show me how to do this? We want to replace that with in-context help. How do you replace somebody who's got all that knowledge? Now, I'm not saying completely, don't get me wrong, replacing individual.
I know you're talking about just swapping people out. It's just that's wow. Yeah.
The true AI application is many, many years away, but how do you at least get 10%, 20%, 30% of that person's knowledge and just encapsulate that in a way where it's just available to you as a user? So instead of calling Sally or calling Joe, it's just there. It takes you by the hand, literally, and says, all right, click here, do this, do that, and now you're done. Things like, I'll give you an example, very specific, so it's not very generic. Changing properties, changing metadata columns for multiple documents at once. You got 50 that you want to do. Even the quick edit is not fast enough. How do you do it? Okay, so someone's going to come to your desk on a regular basis. All right, click over here, click the information panel, select all this stuff, and here's where you're going to do it. That could be replaced, and we've actually done it already. What we call them are actionable walkthroughs. How you can take somebody by hand, just say, all right, click here first, next, click there, do this, and now it's done. So not just showing them a video, no offense to video, I think videos are awesome. We use a bunch of them as well. But how do you get them to truly from point A to point B to get their job done? That's what we're really, really focused on these days.
I was just thinking too about the one of the problems with capturing knowledge and creating more of a self-service help within an organization and is the fact that it's capturing kind of all of the I'm working my way into a question, so I'm kind of thinking through how do I phrase this, but so I've been in a number of organizations where somebody goes in and says, well, I documented that process.
Yeah.
That process. And back in the day, and I tell this story all the time, like I went to work back in the mid 90s, went to work for Pacific Bell. So formerly the phone company in California in the Bay Area. And my first week was the last week of the another PM that was there. And he had documented stuff and I would go and ask questions and he kept telling me, he's like, well, it's in the binder. Yeah. And I'm like going back and I'm looking at okay, yeah, I find the process diagram and I see your bulleted list of things that need to be done. I'm like, there's a lot that's lacking in the translation. And so now we accomplish a lot of that through video and capturing this. And so the whole idea of being able to go in there and you might have a combination of printed and online, documentation, media there, but you can go and fill in those gaps and to be able to provide that in context at the right place for people that are looking at this. You could even, so is that something that you're working with companies on helping them improve even how they're capturing information they want to add in?
I'll go through the steps. So you mentioned binders, you mentioned video. I'll include a couple of things in between as well. So I think we went from the binders on your desk to quick reference sheets or just documents and on all right there, to video, or even to images first, and then to videos, and then where we are right now, where you combine things together in a truly interactive guide. So that person that I was talking about before, the Sally or the Joe, how do you take that person, how do you take that guide, and you make it, you put them on in the computer for the person, for the end user, and say, all right, you know what, Sally is right there. Don't worry. When you do have that question, in your case, for example, your manager, the manager will appear, maybe not the face and all, but he or she's going to be there, pointing to you to what you need. It's true that sometimes that will be in the form of a video. It'll be form of a screenshot. It'll be form of a quick reference sheet. Whatever the form is, that's going to differ. But that will help you without leaving your workspace to get your job done with whatever question you have. That's the intended solution.
Right, because it's the context switching. I'm having to go and chase down find answers to questions. I mean, having that in context, fantastic. I guess the next step then, I'm sure you're working on, is kind of that Johnny Mnemonic / Matrix future where we just plug in and I know it now. You know, I'm an expert. You know.
Yeah. I talk about that at conferences all the time. That that's coming in 2030. But until then, until then, we have to do it the hard way.
I'm just gonna wait. You're
gonna wait as well.
I'm good. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, Asif, how can people want to find out more about what you're working on and get in touch with you? What are the best ways to reach you?
Yeah. Well, I'm on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. Just quickly spell out my name: Asif Rehmani. I'm sure you're gonna put it with this post as well.
Well, yeah.
You'll find me on Twitter. You'll find me on LinkedIn. If you go to our website, that's VisualSP.com, VisualSupportProducts.com. You'll find us there as well.
Excellent. And I'm going to see you next week in Redmond.
Yes, I'll see you at the MVP Summit.
I would just put a timestamp on this video now, but yeah, we'll go ahead both to the Redmond, Washington for Microsoft's annual MVP Summit. So looking forward to it, and I'll see you there.
All right. Thanks, Christian. Take care.